The shocking truth about losing hobbies after awakening, you won't believe why. The morning sun peeked through the tree branches, casting flickering shadows that danced across the pavement. It felt peaceful, almost normal. But behind the calm facade lay a simmering chaos. A group of townsfolk stood in a huddle, eyes wide and breath staggered. They whispered in shocked tones, casting glances towards an old, crumbling house at the end of the street, once a charming home, now a neglected relic. It was said to be haunted, full of whispers and stories long forgotten. Nobody dared to go near, yet, within those peeling walls, strange sounds had begun to leak out, turning curiosity into dread. It started with paintings. Bright, oddly vibrant images had begun appearing in the windows at night, pictures that no one had seen before. Swirls of color, haunting faces, twisted landscapes that seemed to shift if you stared long enough. Some folks claimed they saw someone moving behind the glass, pacing back and forth. Others swore they heard laughter. At least, that was how it started, but soon things escalated. Children began losing interest in their favorite games, leaving toys to gather dust. Adults tossed aside hobbies they cherished for years. What was happening? Reports spread like wildfire, tales of passions evaporating, hobbies disappearing never to return. A sense of something terrible loomed in the air, tightening chests and hardening throats. Strange things unfolded. A man who used to paint murals with his daughter now stood silent, staring at empty canvases. A woman once known for her beautiful garden now stared blankly at wilting flowers. And the townspeople? They gathered, tense and anxious, their eyes reflecting uncertainty. It was as if an unseen force was washing away their joy, and no one knew why or how to stop it. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Back at the old house, a chilling wind swept through, sending chills down the spine of anyone who dared to approach. One girl, with bright red hair and wild curiosity, made a decision. She couldn't just stand by and let the magic of life fade away. She had to know what was behind those walls. Gripping her flashlight, she took a step forward. But just as she reached the door, it creaked open on its own. Was it an invitation or a warning? The tension thickened, her heart raced, and she stood frozen in place. What waited beyond could change everything. Would she unveil the truth or become another lost hobby of the town? As the door swung slowly open, the girl's breath caught in her throat, the stale air rushing out like a gust from the past. With trembling hands, she raised her flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness like a knife. Inside, the house groaned under its own weight, a symphony of creaks and moans that felt as alive as she was. "Hello?" she called, her voice echoing down the corridor. Silence swallowed her words. Taking a hesitant step inside, the floorboards protested beneath her feet. Dust floated through the air, illuminated in the harsh light of her flashlight. She scanned her surroundings, noticing the walls adorned with the very paintings that had mesmerized the townsfolk. They were even more vivid, up close, swirling colors and distorted figures that seemed to reach out towards her. Was it her imagination, or did they shift ever so slightly under her gaze? As she moved deeper into the house, the air grew colder, each breath leaving a fog of her own fear. Her heart raced, each beat louder than the last. What was it about this place that felt so alive? Suddenly, a sound burst through the silence, a soft giggle, almost melodic. It froze her in place. She whipped around, eyes wide with panic. "Who's there?" In the corner of the room, nearly hidden in shadows, a shape appeared. It was a child, no older than 8 or 9, with hair as dark as the night and a mischievous smile. "Are you here to play?" the child asked, innocence in their eyes. The girl felt her heart ache. Play? What did that word even mean anymore? It felt like a ghost from her past. "I don't know." The child's smile faded slightly, replaced with a curious frown. "But you have to." "We all did." "What do you mean we all did? Who are you?" she pressed, fear intertwining with intrigue. With a sudden jolt, the child pointed toward the paintings. "We used to be happy. We painted together, we laughed together." Their sincerity twisted her stomach. "But then they stopped caring, Mommy and Daddy. They forget." "Forget what? Who forgets?" "The things that made them feel alive." "The things that made me feel alive." The child's voice trailed off, dimming like a flickering flame. As shadows danced around them, the atmosphere shifted, strange whispers filling the air, melding with the memories of the past. She turned, studying the paintings closer. They weren't just art, they pulsated with emotion, an imprint of lost joy, creativity fading into nothingness, just like the townsfolk. "No." She shook her head defiantly. "I won't forget." Suddenly, the house trembled, the walls dripping with dark paint, shapes emerging from the canvas, twisting into forms that clutched at her sanity. The child's laughter turned to screams, echoing in her ears, mingling with the whispers of all those who had lost hope. Her breathing quickened. The girl stumbled backward, struggling to comprehend this living nightmare. Something ancient and powerful lurked within the walls, ready to claim even more. With her heart pounding louder than ever, she darted towards the front door, hoping to escape the consuming darkness. It didn't budge. She was trapped. Panic surged, but then she remembered the flashlight, her only source of clarity in this chaos. She pointed it at the swirling shapes, feeling a surge of courage rise within her. Maybe she could break whatever grip this house had on its past, but as the beam of light struck a twisted face in the painting, it shifted. Something snapped within her. And in that moment, she realized she wasn't just trying to save herself. She was the key to awakening the lost passions of her town. As shadows converged, trapping her in a cacophony of laughter and despair, the girl knew she had to choose: fight to free the town from the enchantment strangling it, or succumb to the pull of all the hobbies and joy that had been abandoned. What would she decide? The echoes of choice lingered in the air, thick and suffocating. And just like that, the world faded. The house was no longer just a structure, it had become a living entity, breathing despair and lost joy. Darkness rolled thick like smoke, filling every corner, wrapping around her like a heavy shroud. The girl's heart raced, each thud echoing in her ears as if it were just her against this breathing nightmare. In a moment of clarity, she aimed her flashlight at the nearest painting. The faces within the canvas contorted, their pained expressions challenging her resolve. Yet, within the chaos, something familiar emerged: a fleeting memory of laughter, of splashes of paint on the ground, and the warmth of hands joined in creativity. "Remember!" she shouted. "Remember who you are." A flicker of light erupted from the painting momentarily, illuminating the room. The swirling colors twisted, bending towards her voice as if drawn by a magnet. Shadows quivered, seeming to hesitate just as she did. The child stepped closer, wide-eyed with an urgency that felt like hope. "Don't give up. We all need you," the child urged, their voice ringing clear amid the confusion. Breathless, she nodded, feeling the weight of the town's past creatures press down, melding terror with a flicker of belief. The child stretched out their hand, the innocence reawakening a long-dormant courage within her. As she took a step toward the child, she heard their voices, the voices of her friends, of those who once shared colors and dreams. "Create with us. Break the curse," they cried, anchoring her against the tide of fear that threatened to drown her. Every shadow in the room pulsated with energy, fighting against her resolve. Painful whispers swirled around her, digging at her insecurities. "You can't change anything. They'll never remember, they never cared." But their words faltered against her newfound strength. "I care." she shouted, surprising even herself. "I will fight for you." With renewed determination, she blocked out the negativity and swung her flashlight again, this time letting the beam rest on a particularly vibrant painting. "I won't forget," she declared. Suddenly, the house shook, a deep rumble that felt like an awakening rather than an end. The walls trembled, the paint dripping faster now, swirling like a storm captured in a canvas. The twisted faces began to break apart, fragments of joy breaking through the darkness. "Gather together," the child urged. "All of us." With those words igniting an unquenchable fire in her chest, she instinctively began to move. She felt the rush as she took a few steps into the chaos, daring to reach out to the figures forming from the paint. She saw flickers of her friends, smiling, laughing, creativity pulsing in their veins. Could she really bring them back? Could she rebuild what had been lost? As the child nodded in affirmation, she slipped her hand into theirs. In that moment, she felt a tether connect them, a bridge across time. The painting surged with light, driving the shadows back, creating pockets of color that danced in the gloom, but suddenly, the ground trembled beneath her, and a bone-chilling shriek erupted from the painting. "No! You cannot take them from us!" The voices cried in a chorus of rage, reverberating through the air, pulling shadows closer. Desperation filled her as she realized the deeper truth. To truly awaken the town, she had to confront this source of darkness directly. But how? Time seemed to stretch like taffy, and her grip on reality felt tenuous as the forces pulling at her intensified. The child's eyes locked onto hers, an unspoken understanding buzzing between them. "Draw them out. Show them the joy lurking within," the child implored, rallying her as the house approached a critical pivot, her moment to truly decide what she stood for and what she'd fight against. The girl's resolve ignited, knowing now that the final battle was not just about herself but the essence of the town rekindled through art, laughter, and shared memories. And in that heated moment, she stood ready to either shine bright against the dark tide or be swallowed whole. What awaited on the other side of her choice? The walls groaned as if they were alive, holding their breath in the midst of a fierce storm. The second the girl's hand intertwined with the child's, a rush of wind swept through the room, scattering the shadows like leaves caught in a gale. She felt that their connection pulsed with forgotten vitality, igniting the air around them. "What now?" she whispered, the question barely escaping her lips, yet it hung heavy with anticipation. "Create," the child cried, and their voice rang out, echoing off the walls as the paintings flickered with light. It was a call to action, a plea to ignite the spirit locked within the dark recesses of the house. She needed to paint, to create something beautiful, to weave a tapestry of memories that would fill the void left by the despair that had claimed this place. With a frenzy, she ripped her gaze from the child and scanned the empty spaces around her. A forgotten easel sat in a corner, draped in shadows yet pleading for purpose. She dashed towards it, trembling hands reaching out to lift it, the wood cold against her fingertips. It felt like destiny, like the very air yearned for art once again. "Use your heart," the child encouraged, closing their eyes. "Focus on the laughter, on everything you want to bring back." The memories flowed through her like a healing balm. Joyous laughter echoed in her ears, colors danced in her mind. She envisioned the faces of her friends, each smile captured in a soft swirl, each moment a brushstroke that could restore life and light against the encroaching dark. It surged from her, a wave of inspiration so powerful it could drown the shadows around. The easel was steady beneath her as she grabbed the largest brush she could find. Paint spilled from the tubes, vibrant and alive, mixing on her palette. With each stroke, she created a fusion of exhilaration and determination, every movement a declaration against the void threatening to consume them. Around her, the house began to respond. The floor rippled, color seeping from her artwork, racing to touch the walls. Swirling vines of color snaked upward, and the dark faces flickered, caught between ghastly anguish and rising hope. But the monstrous shrieks grew louder, a cacophony of rage echoing from the heart of the house. "Stop her!" a voice thundered, mixing with 1,000 others. "You will regret this." She faltered, her heart racing, fear pulling at her resolve. The figures in the paintings twisted, desperate to regain the chaos that had bound them. They clawed at the edges of her creation, angry shadows snatching at her canvas like vultures circling prey. No! She pushed forward, pouring every ounce of her will into the strokes, anchoring herself within the flood of colors blooming around her. This was not just her battle, it belonged to everyone who had once breathed life into this place, who had created memories filled with joy, yet just as she thought she had found her footing, a blinding light erupted from the depths of the house. The rays pierced through her creation, unraveling the colors, threatening to turn her artwork into a hollow shell. "Run!" the child cried, gripping her wrist in fear. But she couldn't abandon her creation, it was their only weapon against the darkness. She shuffled closer to the canvas, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. "I won't give up." She shouted defiantly into the roaring tempest, feeling it surge against her words. Then, without warning, the fabric of the world around her shimmered. The colors twisted, and she felt a pulse emanate from her painted dreams. The house had reached a critical mass, as if teetering on the edge between despair and hope, but with each furious heartbeat, a deep, guttural rumble echoed through the walls, a warning that she was not yet safe. "You think you can control this?" the voice snarled, filled with darkness and disdain. "You have awakened the curse, it's only just begun." She held her breath. This wasn't just a challenge, it was an ultimatum, and its shadow loomed in the corners of her mind. The flickering lights dimmed, and she realized she had to make a choice. With shadows closing in, could she truly revive the town before the darkness pulled them all under? "Keep creating," the child urged, eyes wide with fear and hope. But the question weighed heavily on her, could she really harness the power of joy against such deep-rooted despair? The house trembled underfoot, and in that moment, she was filled with a dawning sense of dread. The next step would change everything, but to what end? The house shuddered around them, its groans mingling with a wind that howled with discontent. A frigid chill prickled her skin as her heart raced, the looming darkness coiling tighter. She needed to create, to unleash the colors swirling inside her, but what if they were not enough? What if this was simply the beginning of a nightmare? "Breathe," the child urged, their voice muffled by the threatening roar of the shadows. "Let it out." She focused on the easel, fighting the urge to look around. The shadows clawed and whispered, insidious tendrils reaching for her in an unforgiving grip. Mind racing, she gripped her brush like a lifeline, dabbing it into vibrant paint. But her movements faltered under the weight of fear. What if her memories didn't have the power to combat this malevolence? "Focus." The child's voice cut through her doubt, a shining beacon in the encroaching dark. "Remember the happiness. Remember the light." With a deep breath, she dug her heels into the floor, a spark ignited within her. Thoughts flooded back the carnival evenings, the warmth of laughter shared with friends, the smell of popcorn, and the warmth of sun-soaked picnics. She dipped her brush in bright yellow, swirling it boldly across the canvas. Sunshine poured into the room, vine-like shadows recoiling, hissing in protest, but as the colors splashed wildly, a shriek pierced through her creation. Panic surged. At the edges of her vision, faces twisted in agony emerged from the walls, their eyes wide with desperation. They were lost, trapped by anger and despair. Her art was a thread to their past, weaving together what they yearned to reclaim. "No! You won't take this from us!" she shouted, defiance coursing through her veins. She mixed the bright hues of joy, blending laughter and warmth into one furious stroke after another, pouring out everything she had left inside. But abruptly, the floor beneath her cracked, an abyss opening wide. Shadows streamed from the fissure, tendrils that seemed alive, a hungry maw awaiting her. She staggered back, her breath hitching, heart pounding like a war drum. "Don't stop," the child pleaded, their grip tightening around her wrist. "You can hold it back. Keep painting." Gnashing teeth echoed as the shadows writhed, a grotesque symphony of anguish resounding in her ears. The air thickened as darkness chased her, clawing at her back, ready to consume her whole. The paintings around them fluttered with chaos, images of despair morphing into grotesque forms, as if mocking her courage. "Find your truth," the child shouted, their voice barely cutting through the din truth. That's what she needed. With every brushstroke, she summoned not just their past, but the essence of the laughter and life that once thrived here. Each drawing of a smiling face, each memory of dancing feet on warm grass lit up like fireflies in her mind, igniting her spirit. Then, with an earth-shattering roar, the house lurched as the shadows shrank back, retaliating against the influx of light. She felt a sudden pull beneath her, a tremor that almost sent her reeling. "It's working!" she yelled, breathless hope igniting within her. But just as she reached the crescendo of creation, a shadowy figure emerged from the swirling darkness, towering taller than her, its face a mask of rage and resentment. "You think you can erase us?" it hissed, a chilling echo that reverberated through the walls. "All you are doing is awakening our true form." The room trembled, vibrations racing through the floor under her feet, and her heart sank. This was not just a matter of creation, it felt like she was fanning the flames of something terrible. What was this true form? The answer hung in the air like a threat, and she realized that the darkness they faced was somehow linked to her own fears, and her own past. She was standing at the edge of a precipice, seconds away from shattering the delicate balance between creation and destruction. Time stood still. Could she change the course of this battle by embracing her own truth? With shadows screeching around her and the monstrous figure advancing, she braced herself for the ultimate confrontation. The moment had come, the truth awaited, and with it, her choices could either doom them all or bring forth something extraordinary. Would she dare to face the darkness that lurked inside her? As the towering shadow loomed, its presence felt suffocating, like a dark cloud ready to burst. She gripped the brush tighter, her knuckles white against the vibrancy of her art. The horror etched across the figure's face mirrored the turmoil clawing at her heart. What truth could possibly rescue them from this abyss? "Feel it, don't fight it," the child urged, an unshakable trust radiating from them. "Embrace it." With every heartbeat reverberating like thunder, she closed her eyes, memories flooding her mind like wildfire. She let herself be vulnerable, remembering both joy and sorrow, the laughter that echoed on summer nights, and the tears shed in moments of despair. It was all part of her, woven into the very fabric of who she was. She dragged her brush across the canvas, a stroke of brilliant blue capturing the vastness of the sky, swirling into deep oceans of trust. Colors exploded from her, illuminating the room and pushing back against the blackness. The child smiled, and for a fleeting moment, the darkness seemed to falter, yet the shadowy figure laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "You think nostalgia gives you power? You only feed my strength." Fear washed over her. Panic gripped her throat. Why was it growing stronger? "You need to face what you've hidden," the child insisted, squeezing her hand. "The fear, the anger your past doesn't define you. But refusing to confront it will destroy us." The child's words struck a chord. Deep down, she felt the tremors rising, the resentment she had buried, the dreams she had abandoned. She had tried to paint over the darkness, but now it thrummed alive beneath her skin, begging for release. "Stop hiding," the child shouted, drawing her back to the moment. "You are more than the shadows." The room filled with a crisp breath, the chill receding slightly as she summoned the courage buried within her. With renewed determination, she raised her brush, fingers trembling but resolute. She mixed colors wildly, brushing strokes that felt like defiance against the shadows clawing at her being. Each swirl of paint became a battle cry against her own doubts. The shadow shrieked, attempting to latch onto her, pulling her into the maw of despair. She felt its icy grip around her ankle, but she would not succumb. With every pulse of light she released onto the canvas, the room shook. She was a storm within this chaos, and then, suddenly, the monstrous figure hesitated, a flicker of uncertainty crossing its dark features. You wish to embrace all parts of you? It hissed, a tinge of frustration transforming its voice. This cannot end well. A glimmer of hope sparked in her chest. She had always thought she had to fight against her past to move forward, but now she realized it was the key. She opened her eyes wide, focused on the child's unwavering faith and saw the faint light reflected in their gaze. No more running. She screamed, and the burst of color erupted from the tips of her brush, a radiant wave that crashed against the shadow, vibrating through the very essence of the house. The darkness screamed, twisted, fought back, but her newfound strength overwhelmed it, glowing brighter, illuminating the corners that had long been forgotten. She was pouring all of herself into this effusion of light and shadow, of pain and joy, of truth and creation. Just then, the shadow surged forward, its voice like nails on a chalkboard. You cannot erase what I am. I am your past, the darkness you thought you could forget. A shockwave thrummed through the room, knocking her off balance. She fell hard against the canvas. Pain lanced through her as swirling colors broke apart, flickering as if caught in a battle of opposite forces. But within that confusion, a revelation struck her like lightning. Maybe you are, she breathed, but you don't have to control me. As her heart pounded against her ribs, she stood tall amid the chaos, ready to face this ugly truth that had haunted her for far too long. But was she prepared for what came next? The shadows flickered, closing in on her, and the child's hand slipped from hers. All that remained was the echo of their urgent voice. Her breath held in her lungs as she felt the ground quake beneath her. Will you fight or embrace? And as darkness surged closer, she had only one choice left to make. The darkness lunged, tendrils swirling like snakes around her legs, tightening their grip. Cold cut through her, stealing her breath, yet deep within, a flickering flame remained unextinguished. Fear and resolve battled within her chest, the struggle manifesting in a fierce pulse thumping in her ears. Embrace, she whispered, forcing the word from her trembling lips while anchoring her gaze on the child's now distant silhouette. They were still there, just beyond the grasp of shadows. Their face shone with encouragement, urging her to rise despite the overwhelming dread. The paintbrush felt heavier than ever, drenched in the colors of her raw emotions, overwhelmed by everything she had avoided for too long. You are not my enemy, she shouted, voice slicing through the thickness like sunlight. The shadow paused, features contorting in rage. You think you can deny me? I am the storm you fear. I am every moment that made you tremble. It coiled tighter, the air thick with its bitter laughter, but her chest expanded. A surge of vibrant energy pulsed up from her gut and exploded through her fingertips. Memories poured forth, unfiltered. The laughter, the heartbreak, every moment of joy intertwined with sorrow flowed out onto the canvas. The colors blended, creating a beautiful chaos, each hue a piece of her story, a kaleidoscope of her life. Look! She cried, her voice erupting to shatter the cold grasp of despair. This is who I am, Shadow. I can't erase you, but I won't let you control me anymore. With each stroke, her resolve grew stronger. Brilliant yellows mixed into deep reds as she painted reminders of every cherished moment. The beauty of her past wrapped around her heart, binding the pieces of herself she once shunned. She was rising, transforming, reclaiming her canvas. The shadow convulsed, screeching like a banshee as blinding light encroached from her creation. No! You're making a mistake. You cannot win. But she was ready for this confrontation, her soul ablaze. She fed off her pain and elation alike. She wasn't just a collection of broken pieces, she was vibrant, whole, and incredibly powerful. As she painted, shadows edged back, hesitant and fearful of her newly revealed strength. Watch me! She yelled defiantly, watch as I embrace my past to create my future. The gallery hummed with energy, colors flashing and filling the room like fireworks. It was as if her emotions were lighting up the very air around her, casting aside the remnants of the shadow's grip. The child was there again, standing a little closer, their eyes wide with hope. Then, from behind the shadow, a thunderous voice rumbled, shaking the walls. "This is only your first battle. You think you have defeated me?" The shadow swirled violently, creating a barrier of darkness around her bright colors. "You are merely beginning to understand who you truly are." A chilling realization crept up her spine as the shadow loomed larger, coaxing the darkness back from the edges. Panic clawed back at her heart. "What do you mean?" she gasped. "Your past is vast and filled with more darkness than you dare to face." The room began to tremble, a chaotic dance between shadow and light. The echoes of her memories began to swirl wildly, clashing against the overwhelming weight of the shadow towering over her. She felt her resolve quiver under the monstrous threat. What will I have to confront? Suddenly, a cacophony erupted from the swirling void, drowning out her thoughts, a symphony of all the choices she never made, the paths she avoided. "Prepare," the shadow hissed between maniacal laughter, "for you will see what you have hidden deep within you. Only then will you understand the truth of your essence." As the swirling tempest closed in, she clenched her brush tighter, heart racing. This was turning into something beyond her control, and the final revelation was looming, but would she embrace it or allow it to swallow her whole? Time slowed. Her next move would dictate everything. The vortex of darkness shuddered, pulsing as if breathing, and the air crackled with raw energy. She felt the pulse of her heart hammering against her ribcage, a drum of urgency echoing in the growing chaos. Whatever the shadow planned to unleash, she knew it would be unlike anything she had faced before. Her eyes darted around the gallery, her memories swirling around her in a turbulent tempest. Faces of friends long lost, laughter that echoed like ghosts, and paths she had purposely left behind to escape the pain woven through each recollection. The colors she had boldly painted filled the corners with warmth. But in the face of the shadow, the hues began to flicker. "Haven't you learned?" The shadow's voice took on a twisted, taunting tone, each word dripping with icy malice. "You think you can just erase me? I am the scars you keep hidden. I am the truth you cannot escape." Rising panic squeezed her throat, and she fought back the welling tears. No, she wouldn't succumb. Even as the memories threatened to shatter her resolve, she prepared to face whatever darkness lay ahead. Her brush was no longer just a tool, it became a sword, a lifeline tethered to her spirit, ready to carve out her truth. "I embrace you, darkness," she shouted, her voice strong, echoing throughout the trembling room. "I've lived too long in your shadow. Show me what I need to see." A sinister grin spread across the shadow's features, an affront against her burgeoning light. "Very well. Let us peel back the layers. You wouldn't want to keep the truth hidden now, would you?" Then, without warning, the tendrils lunged forward. They snaked around her arms, her legs, pulling her into the heart of the storm. With a gasp, she felt the coldness seep into her skin, chilling her very bones. Her memories twisted, blurring into a horrific montage, secrets buried deep, betrayals she thought she had buried, moments of unforgivable regret. She fought against the tide, the shadows whispering doubts and fears louder than the chorus of life she had painted. The visions attacked relentlessly, the friend she pushed away, the opportunity she let slip away. "No, I can't bear this," she cried, her chest tightening. But the weight of each memory bore down on her like an anchor, pulling her into a dark abyss. "Stop. Enough." She turned the brush toward her heart, squeezing her eyes shut, searching for the flickering flame within. For once, she needed to feel it come alive again. She wanted the warmth, the hope, but how could she find it when the darkness was swallowing her whole? "Remember," the shadow howled, its eyes burning with triumph. "You created this fear. Embrace it, and it will become part of you." Her breath hitched. In an unexpected moment, energy surged as her heart thundered like a wild electrical storm. Thoughts raced through her mind, battling for clarity. Did she have the courage to confront her deepest fears and losses? Just then, she felt it, the warmth that had flickered beneath the cold, a flicker becoming a fire. With a sudden burst of conviction, she lifted her paintbrush, capturing the colors of those regrets, transforming them into strokes of resilience. They swirled together, a deeper understanding embedding itself into the canvas of her soul, but then, another crack deafened her senses. A flash of blinding light erupted from the depths of the shadow, illuminating the truths she'd resisted for far too long. Heartbeats echoed in her ears, pounding like war drums. Caught in a dance between light and shadow, she realized this was just the beginning. Her truth was beginning to take shape, but at what cost? Hold on. She whispered to herself, don't give in. As the ground trembled beneath her, she steeled her resolve, ready to face whatever came next. But as the shadow writhed in frustration, she knew a chilling uncertainty lurked just beyond the horizon of uncovering her hidden truths. The air thickened, crackling with anticipation. Would she emerge victorious, or would this battle unveil more terrifying realities than she could bear? The shadow's next move would reveal everything, and the weight of salvation lay heavily in her hands. Would she have the strength to accept it? The shadows churned violently, tightening their grip on her limbs, squeezing her flesh like a vice. Cold seeped deeper, and every heartbeat sent waves of dread crashing through her. The air felt heavier, alive with the tension of a storm about to break. She fought to keep her breath steady, but panic surged again. Give in. The shadow taunted, its voice echoing like a whisper in a forgotten hall. It will be easier. This weight you carry, it defines you. You can't escape it. No. She screamed, her voice raw against the howl of the darkness. I will not be defined by my past. With a sudden clarity, she pressed the bristles of her brush against the canvas of darkness. Each stroke pushed back against the suffocating grip of despair. Colors erupted from the tip, brilliant swaths of golden yellows and fiery reds, illuminating the depths of her torment. The interplay of light began to push against the shadows clamoring for her surrender. A light. The shadow's amusement faded momentarily, replaced by a flicker of uncertainty. Foolish girl. You think mere colors can unmake me? I think it will, she replied fiercely, channeling the warmth of her emotions into the brush. I can create something new from all of this. I can break the cycles. As she painted, the boundaries of her pain started to shift, the memories twisted, morphing into forms she could manipulate. Lost friends transformed into vibrant figures, somehow dancing in the storm. Regrets became threads woven into a tapestry that told her story not of defeat, but of strength and perseverance, yet the shadow roared back, furious that its dominion was being challenged. Tendrils lashed out, splintering the canvas of light she had begun to weave. Each strike felt like ice against her skin, a reminder of the fears still lodged deep within her. No. You can't, but the heat within her sparked, fueling her determination. I can. In an act of defiance, she pushed harder, aimed higher, allowing all pain to transform within her art. The brush felt like an extension of her soul, every flick a testament to her survival. Suddenly, she caught sight of something out of the corner of her eye, an image that sent chills spiraling up her spine. The porcelain face of a friend she had lost long ago, smiling gently from the depths of the shadow. The moment froze, anguish clawing at her chest. Is that you? Do you remember me? The shadow morphed, taking on the voice of her friend. Once, you cherished me. Now, you deny your love, burying it in fear. No. I'm not denying anything. She shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. I miss you, but I can't keep reliving this pain. But you must, the shadows hissed, the semblance of her friend growing sharper. To embrace your truth, you must first face this. With every ounce of strength, she swirled her brush. The image of her friend began shifting into a cascade of memories, good times intertwined with the deep hurt of loss. Loving laughter turned to choking sobs as she fought against the pull of despair. Why should I face these ghosts? She implored, grappling with the weight of the truth. What if it breaks me? Because, dear one, it's the only way to free yourself. The shadow's voice softened, now tinged with a haunting melancholy. A moment of silence wrapped around her like a cloak. What if confronting this pain was the key to unlocking a strength she had never known? With the heartbeat steadying her resolve, she steadied her brush again. Would she dare step into the void, where her deepest fears resided, to unearth the strength buried beneath? A dark wave surged forward, but this time, she met it with fierce light. "I'm ready!" she shouted, plunging into the depths of her memories, ready to unearth the truth, no matter the cost. And just as she did, the world around her erupted in chaos. Light spiraled and shadows screamed, the true battle beginning. What awaited her in the abyss? Could this be the moment of her greatest reckoning or her end? The storm of shadows roiled around her, a tempest of twisted memories and silent screams. Each moment throbbed, echoing the battle raging within her mind. She realized now that the shadows weren't just her fears, they were parts of her life that she had hidden away, the laughter shared, the joy felt, the dreams that had slipped through her fingers like sand. Face them. The shadow howled, a thunderous roar that rattled the very walls of the house. They will consume you. But it was too late. She felt the warmth inside her rise, the flickering hope she had nearly buried alive. She took a deep breath and met the storm head-on. "I embrace you," she shouted, her voice cutting through the cacophony like a beacon in the dark. With newfound strength, she began to paint, her brush flying across the canvas, transforming pain into colors that shimmered with life. Each stroke was a rebellion, a declaration that she recognized and accepted her entire past. The laughter of summer picnics, the warmth of friends gathered under starlit skies, the bittersweet memories of those she had lost, it all poured forth. As the colors blended together, a kaleidoscope of experiences filled the room. Vibrant yellows swirled with comforting blues, forming a whirlpool of connection and understanding. For too long, she had buried the truths within her, hiding from shadows that only needed light to dispel them. With every stroke, the figures in her paintings danced and twirled, pulling the darkness back, inch by inch. The weight of fear loosened its grip, the tension in the air began to clear, and she felt the tug of the shadows weaken. "No!" The shadow roared, launching itself forward, but she stood firm. The pulse of power filled her veins as she met its gaze, refusing to back down. "You don't control me anymore. You're not my past, you're just a piece of who I am." At that, the shadows recoiled, the grotesque faces writhing as they closed in on themselves. She had named her fears, had taken the uncertainty and made it hers to wield. The realization was like a shockwave, a connection forged between her memories and her will to create. The shadow howled again, its form morphing in erratic patterns, twisting as if attempting to escape the brilliance she summoned. "You'll regret this," it screeched, but the frantic energy only fueled her furious resolve. "Create. Keep going." The child's voice rang out, mingling with her own heartbeat. She lifted her brush higher, letting the explosion of color consume her surroundings, believing in the truth she'd unearthed. As light cascaded from her creation, the canvas transformed. Joy beat against the darkness like a drum, a heartbeat of reclamation. Visions of her past flooded the room, her loved ones, their laughter echoing back to her like calling cards of hope. They stood in support, colors flowing back into the canvas, each face illuminating with familiarity and comfort. "Embrace me, embrace us." Her lost friends beckoned from the colorful concoction of memories. "You are not alone." With that realization lingering, the darkness shuddered, and with a final furious scream, it imploded. A blinding light erupted from the heart of the house, sweeping away the last vestiges of shadow, leaving a reawakening glow behind. As the dust settled, she stumbled back, gasping softly. The old house shifted, the air heavy with relief instead of fear. The once oppressive walls pulsed with vibrant hues reflecting freedom, the specters of despair were dispelled. The girl turned to face the painting, it pulsated with life, the colors shimmering like a newly polished gemstone. Her heart swelled with warmth as she understood the shadows were not meant to control her story but to be threads woven into the rich tapestry of who she was. "You did it!" the child exclaimed, their voice bright and full of joy. Closing her eyes, she felt a pressing weight lift from her chest, the emptiness filled with an extraordinary sense of connection to her past and the hope of tomorrow. The town would remember again, families would return to arts, gardens would bloom, and laughter would dance on warm breezes. They would all remember. As she stepped back, a slow smile spread across her lips. The daunting force had been neutralized, she had confronted her demons and emerged victorious. This wasn't just a battle, it was the rebirth of everything she once cherished. "Together, we reflect the light," she whispered aloud, knowing she would always carry both shadows and brightness in her heart. With a last glance at the revitalized house, she turned to leave. Outside, the townsfolk waited, eyes filled with wonder. In that moment, laughter erupted, a chorus of voices sharing secrets of rebirth and joy. The girl smiled brightly, knowing this was just the beginning. As she stepped into the embrace of the crowd, their cheering wrapped around her like a warm blanket. They were ready to create anew, to take back what had been lost. And she would lead them, guiding them through the vibrant world of creativity, where memories thrived alongside new beginnings. This was their time, this was their moment. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss any more exclusive stories like this one. Smash that like button right now to help feed the algorithm. Your support means everything. And flood the comments with your thoughts on this ending. I want to hear your theories and reactions. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this incredible conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel, so let's keep the momentum going.